Hey, Gabriel Blake.
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
Where are we today?
I am still in position 2. It's become a habit, apparently. So I have a new podcast location.
Yeah, it sounds different. I mean, all of our followers, they actually reach out and they just told me it's like these like night and day. It's like I just feel like more body, how do you say, like more oomph to Blake's opinions. It's like it has changed you for the better.
I do like that in my camera, I can see a painting of mine I really like. So maybe that's why I just like to steam.
Yeah, you feel more inspired.
Yep. It looks like the cover of Hail to the Thief. So.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's from the same artist.
Nope.
No, it is good in any case. And I'm still in Chicago. We are dealing with a tornado alert that is supposedly to end right now. I'm still here, so I survived like one more not so tornado in Chicago. So that's good.
I mean, if you haven't seen a tornado, did you really live in the Midwest?
I can say yes, because I haven't seen it and I've been paying taxes in the state of Illinois.
So yeah, that's fair.
And talking about like paying taxes, in this case, like paying taxes for my friendship with you, what did we watch this time?
We watched the 1968 quintessential Ingmar Bergman film, Hour of the Wolf or The Hour of the Wolf. I've seen it on the internet multiple different ways, and I don't speak Swedish, so I don't know.
So when you're saying like quintessential, are you saying that it's like this defines what Bergman movies are? Is like if I watch this and I like it, I would like the 36 remaining movies or 38. And if I didn't like it, it's like I can save my time.
No, what I mean by that is if you wanted to watch 10 Ingmar Bergman films and understand his entire canon, not that you can, you would have to spend years watching his films. But I'm saying if you were to come to me and ask me for 10 Ingmar Bergman films, you should see this would be in the top 5 for sure, maybe top 3 for me.
Top 3. Okay. What are the other 2?
Spot 1 is The Seventh Seal, Spot 2 is The Seventh Seal, and then Spot 3 is Hour of the Wolf.
The Seventh Seal, but tie with Hour of the Wolf.
Yeah. Through a Glass Darkly, and then honest to God, I think if you saw Persona, Through a Glass Darkly, Hour of the Wolf, and Fanny and Alexander, you would have a good idea of this guy's work. And maybe Strawberry, what is the...
Sweet Strawberries? No, the comedy.
Yeah, Strawberry Nights. I think it's something like that. Anyway, that comedy he did, just because that shows his entire range. Anyway,
gotcha. Okay. Why did you pick this?
I've been meaning to pick this for a very long time. As you mentioned, me having you watch an Ingmar Bergman film, you feel is taxing. So I've only had you do it twice in 10 years. I think I'm due several more. But then also we obviously recently watched a ton of David Lynch films. I insist this must be one of David Lynch's favorite films. But then also, what did we watch right before Rapture? And how do you say rapture in Spanish?
Arrebato.
What did we watch right before Arrebato?
All About My Mother, I think. Yeah,
no. Anyway, just endless discussions. I've wanted you to watch this forever. Actually, my husband, with whom I've been with just 1 year shorter than knowing you, mentioned that this is the only Ingmar Bergman film I made him watch in the last 10 years. So apparently I really like it.
So you didn't make him watch Winter's Light when we watched it?
No. Fuck, that's a good movie. God damn Ingmar Bergman.
Damn for this So as this was your pick, I guess that I have to summarize it. Let's see if I may like keep it a bit more like high level.
Because all of his work is allegorical. It's more...
Yeah, it's more like symbolism, like non-stop. It's like no one plays with the death in this case, but they get close. They get like pretty close to that, to playing with the death. But basically, the movie opens with Is it actually like just like first with text about like, hey, we're going to be like making a movie about like the death of this painter, and we actually going to be like basing it in a journal that the wife like found of him, and then they ask.
Does it say we're going to make a movie? It absolutely says it's basically like a news account, but it's just text. On this day, this man here, there was a journal, and we sat down and spoke with his wife.
Well, I mean, I think that is like then they say it's like we want to pick it up like with the wife, and then the wife like accepts to just like talk, like engage with them. So you almost feel like, oh, it's going to be like a documentary style kind of thing, but then it jumps into no, this is like a complete normal story, a complete normal movie. So we see like a bit of an interview with her that she actually just tells us that she moved with her husband to this small island, you know, and they were like pretty happy initially, and then things started to go bad. And I don't know if actually like the husband
Max von Sydow plays an artist married to Liv Ullmann. They live on this island. She's pregnant. He paints, and they have ups and downs. It's just important to, I think, to show that we're talking about a married couple, or at least a couple that's expecting a child.
She was expecting a child?
Yeah. That's why he calls her fatty in the beginning.
I thought that he was just being mean.
Nope, she was pregnant.
Did I miss that part? Or maybe in the subtitles on the version that I watched, that part was not missing. Part was missing or something. But basically, they go back in time. I mean, she starts narrating the story. Is that they are like pretty happy for one scene, and then he starts like just going into a dark place. He starts like just getting a bit more, I don't know how to use this word, like a bit, I don't know, like retracted. He's like grumpy. She's like trying to approach him and being nice, and he doesn't engage with her. He starts talking about like people that he has seen in the island, and
or
then
the way I understood it is new characters he's drawing, new things he's painting.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is like at some point he shows like the drawings to her. He says, sorry, I was this like a week ago, and she starts like just seeing like some paintings of people, and he actually talks about like, oh, there is this man that is like a bird, and there is this woman that if she removes her hat, there is no face to it.
She takes off her face with her hat.
She takes her face with her hat, you know, but she actually describes all of these characters before we see anyone else. So it's a bit more of a, is this his imagination? Or is this something that really happens? We see him, I think that the first time that we see him interacting with someone is with the therapist, with a guy with glasses.
Yeah, Dr. Yes.
Yeah. yes, that guy. And he starts like just like talking non-stop. This is the guy of very few words, and then he slaps the crap out of him.
I mean, the guy's being a real nuisance.
But I mean, there are other. Sorry.
The character's name is Lindhorst, but it doesn't say if he was a doctor or not. I can't remember who he was. Was he a lawyer?
So then they get like the wife. One of the days that she's by herself, she gets visited by a very peculiar old woman that basically starts telling her that she should be checking his journal, that he should look for it, she should read like the journal. I think that she tells him something about like, hey, and also he's meeting with someone.
I think, yeah, she lets him know that her husband's speaking with the count or whoever rules the island.
Yeah, but I thought that he also like just mentions that he's talking with her ex-lover.
Oh, Veronica.
With Veronica. And it's like the first time after like reads the journal is like she starts like just discovering that he has been engaging with random people, and one of the persons is that she starts like just probably it's like a diary that he had like for a while. So I think that he talks about like the relationship that he had like with another woman in the past, a very intense like relationship, and now is almost like this woman is revisiting him, even if they are living in an island. So it's pretty clear that he's going insane.
Yeah, and I would just, in my opinion, he hasn't met these people. These are like characters, or these are like fantasies or voices in his head, and he's kind of like deciding, am I going to embrace these voices?
Yeah.
Or fight for my sanity?
Yeah, and then they get invited to a castle. That supposedly there is a castle in this island, and they go to the party. This is the part that I found like super confusing, because she actually like goes, like the wife also goes to the party in the castle.
Well, they're just invited by the lord of the castle. They say, hey, we own this island, come out here.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, there is like the therapist that got his face slapped off. There is like the strange woman also there. There are a couple. There is like one that is like a courtesan, almost like a prostitute. So it's almost like archetypes. It's a bit more of a concepts, fears, scenes, capital scenes, maybe, the death playing chess. So all of these characters are there, and the wife also interacts with them.
And that for you is what, incongruent, or like?
It's just strange to me, because I mean, fast forward, it's like at the end, like he gets invited back. I mean, they give him like a gun, I think. One of them, the therapist or something, gives them a gun for protecting like from weird stuff that is going to be like happening. What was it for?
I mean, so I'm going to take it from here. The artist, Max von Sydow, that's what it is. No, I mean, I think you're right, but we just see him descending into madness in a more slow, meditative pace, and directly before this man visits him and gives him the gun, he confesses to his wife that he actually murdered a boy on the island.
Oh, yeah.
And so then the man comes and he's like, oh, why don't you come to a party? And by the way, here's a gun for all those, like, little, he calls them game is in the small animals. He's like, here, you can help control the small animals in the island with a nod, wink, wink. We know you murdered this boy. Even though it was a big secret. And then, of course, he takes the gun and murders Alma, which is weird because Alma's narrating.
Yeah, well, I mean, she actually, when she's narrating, she says that it's like, he shot me, but he only grazed me, and I could actually just like hit away.
But yeah, so we don't know if she's dead or not, except we know that she's alive. And then he goes to the second party, which is just like a pure, like, nightmarish experience where he walks through, and the courtesan you mentioned makes him worship her feet and kiss them, and then he's ushered into this empty room by I keep calling him Lord, but he just owns the island, where the Lord of the Manor just like starts crying, and he walks up the wall and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's just my jealousy.
That's right.
It was like, okay, no worries, and he just leaves, and like it's just like a hall of nightmares.
Yeah. And actually, like, that guy, like the lord of the castle, supposedly is having an affair, or she's actually with Veronica.
Yes, which is clearly the whore and the virgin and the whore dichotomy that the artist Jorgen is dealing with. And
and then we see him like just finding like a body under a blanket, and then when he removes the blanket, he's like, that's Veronica that has been like waiting there for him. And then she starts laughing. All of the population of the castle starts laughing, like looking at them, and he starts laughing, like going insane. And then we actually see them.
I'm sorry, it's way more horrific than they just find a dead body. They're like, all of these horrific people are preparing him to go fuck Veronica. And to do that, they like paint his skin and put lipstick on him and guide him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They take him to this table where he thinks she's dead, and he starts to make love to her, and then she wakes up, and then
it only removes the blanket. Yeah, only removes the blanket. I think that he started like any necrophilia action here.
He starts at her head, runs his hand down her body, over her breast, and then stops over her vagina, and then his hand disappears. I'm pretty sure we know what happened. Like, he was practicing necrophilia. I mean, Yeah.
Okay, I may have blocked like that memory. And then we actually see that the wife that goes into the forest, like looking for him, that is like basically like just tries to say, and she actually narrates, "I never saw those people." That is like we see her like just following him, like going crazy, like in the forest or in a swamp, and it's like, yeah, he couldn't see me while I was following him, and then I lost track of him.
Yeah, and all the characters are there, and she can't see them this time, and ultimately she loses track of those people and him.
Yeah. So we don't know if he's dead for sure, I guess.
No, we don't.
So I don't know. I felt strange
I
about
think
it.
that's probably what Ingmar Bergman wanted you to feel about it.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely, as you were saying, is like David Lynch took inspiration from here because everything feels like a nightmare. Everything feels like a dream. You know, it's
like a slow menace nightmare where like weird shit happens and everyone's just okay with it.
Well, the wife is not really okay with it. She's just like confused, and I think that is like, well, I really love my husband, so I'd rather like not upset him too much.
Yeah, but I mean, like when the guy just walks up the wall and then asks him to leave, he's just like, okay, bye.
So what happened with the baby? Is he was pregnant?
I think the entire film takes place over what, like a week, 2 weeks, and we just don't see the beginning or end of that. It's just like an added, hey, well, let's be clear. So the idea of this film, it was originally an idea called The Cannibals, which Ingmar Bergman wanted to be a double film, 4 hours of film. Ultimately, The Cannibals became 2 separate films, which he did Persona immediately before this, and then he did Hour of the Wolf, and he sees them as complementary and 2 sides of the same coin. Also, it's very interesting to understand that this isn't supposition. Ingmar Bergman said he sees Jorgen as his alter ego, and he saw himself as this artist during a particularly dark time in his life, and he wrote this story about his love affair with Liv Ullmann, who plays Alma. And so he's exploring, in my opinion, a lot of allegory, like you say, which is totally my jam. I don't think it's so much yours. But he's also like exploring in a really interesting way depravity, or at least what had been perceived as depravity before then. It's not necessarily depravity. Like when he's introducing the characters he's seeing to Alma, I think it's the Birdman, where he says, look, Alma, this is the Birdman. I think he's homosexual. At some point you see him murder the young boy, and it's extremely, like, there's a sexual aspect to this that makes you pretty clear on what happened. And I just think this is Ingmar Bergman exploring the disintegration of his identity as an artist. And to me, that makes it extremely interesting. And I smiled just now, listeners, you couldn't tell, because this is like Lars von Trier's wet dream. To be able to express his suffering as an artist in this way. And I think, yeah, the character, like, sometimes Alma can interact, engages with, and is made to feel very uncomfortable by these characters. Sometimes she can't see them. For me, it is just all about, it's almost like a Jacob's ladder, right? What's real, what's not real, which is why I think the framing device of the film crew coming to interview her is fairly significant, because if we had just seen this from an omniscient narrator perspective and just saw what was happening, we wouldn't necessarily pay attention in the way that we're paying attention from Alma's perspective, because we're supposed to see everything that happened from the way she saw it, but then also we're given a glimpse into his insanity.
Well, not a glimpse. It's like probably like 30% or 40% of the movie doesn't have Alma.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important that the news crew sets it up that way, because then we are paying attention to the artist from the outside and getting to see the artist from the inside. And I think that like dual perspective is really interesting.
Okay. I mean, I'm sorry for really saying this, but for me, it comes a bit more like sloppy.
That's fine. I mean, I figured you weren't going to like this.
Yeah, I had to say that I had like a hard time like getting into it. It felt like, okay, I'm pretty clear that this
all
is like,
80 minutes.
all
there
80
are commercial breaks on Hulu that long.
Not that long, but I mean, it was interesting to me, but also at the same time, is as you put it like pretty clearly, I'm not much into high and heavy allegorical stuff. I love stuff like Enemy. What I understood from killing the kid, I just felt like, hey, this is actually just like killing the idea of having like a baby with this person. Is that this person represents a bit more of the stable kind of future, and it's like he fantasizes about like this Veronica because it was like a bit more of a crazy muse that he was like involved with, but he probably had like many lovers. And it's as far as I got it. Then when I saw like all of the people on the castle, I felt it's like, probably there is something here. I don't know what it is, and I don't even know if he knows what it is.
One of the things I found interesting was the like constant either fear of or the constant exposure of the artist, which I found fascinating, like by that man giving him the gun and implying, we know you murdered that kid. Or so he attacked that same doctor, and then in public at the first party, he starts to tell the story. You wouldn't believe, I met this man who just beat me and it was crazy. And you can tell he's like having a panic attack. And there's this idea of constantly like exposing the artist as a fraud or as something that he's a freak he isn't is. I found, as someone with some social anxiety, extremely effective as a storytelling device.
But don't they actually like invite him because they know of his work and they really respect it, and they have like plenty of his paintings there?
I think, do they have plenty, or did they just have one of his muse in him?
They have like one of Veronica, and I think that they have others too, because they say it's like, hey, me and my wife are like admirers of you.
Yes, you're right. They claim to be fans of him. And that's where we get into this interesting kind of examination of like serfdom, class structures. Someone's living in a castle while basically being a vampire and sucking the life, or in this case, the sanity of the artist for the pleasure of those in the castle. I read a pretty extensive academic paper that shows the allusions to lycanthropy as well as vampirism, and how the allegories relate to sexual awakening, which we see him projecting in his artwork. Am I a homosexual? And let's be clear, Ingmar Bergman, even in the 60s, doesn't make a judgment about whether that's good or bad. It's just he's exploring, is he a homosexual? In my opinion, because this is a companion piece to Through a Glass Darkly, which deals with incest and rape, I think that his experience with the boy on the cliff, I think he raped that boy, and that caused him to go further insane, and he had to confront it when he admits to Alma, which is why then he murders her and then goes on a rampage in the castle. I don't know, man. There's so much here to unpack. I fucking love this movie. It's so good.
I mean, I think that you have given me like 6 different interpretations in the last 10 minutes.
But there's so much. Like, I could keep going. There's so many layers here. And it works perfectly well. It works very well for me.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can tell you that for me, it just left me like, okay, this was something. I think that I appreciated more from the kind of influence that it can have like in other filmmakers, more than actually as a piece on its own. I think that I may not be like the target audience for Bergman.
You're absolutely not, which is why I make you watch one film every 5 years.
Okay, you already used this card.
2028, here we go.
Pick wisely.
No, I get it. I get why this isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I was reading a little bit about the history. This came out to pretty negative reviews in Sweden, and it really only came to more prominence when the Criterion Collection released it. And and now it's considered it's respected, but it's not like a masterpiece. I think people don't agree that it's a masterpiece, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Interesting. So it's not, you really like it, but it's not one of his biggest films. It's not like one of the three main ones that people think about. It's like they would think about like Fanny and Alexander, Persona, and The Seventh Seal.
Yep, those are the ones I would think of.
Yeah.
What is the other TV show he did? Oh, Scenes from a Marriage. Did you see Scenes from a Marriage?
No.
Oh, God.
What kind of question is that? Dude, you know that I haven't.
I thought you had seen something. Well, the Lord of the Castle is the main character in Scenes from a Marriage. So.
Oh, gotcha. But it's the actor, it's not the character.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that you told me that he reused like most of the actors like from one movie to the next.
There were like 4 to 6 of them that were just in constant rotation, and it was Liv Ullmann, B.B. Anderson, Max von Sydow, the Lord of the Castle, and I think a couple others, and they were all fucking each other, all of them.
With Bergman, I assume that they were all bisexuals. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a part of me, you know what I was thinking about? You're not going to like this, but I was thinking about Fassbender.
How so? Tell me.
I was thinking that it's like Fassbender also had like the same thing of I'm going to be like reusing actors. I think that both of them, they were like pretty prolific filmmakers. I feel like both of them, they didn't care like too much about, and correct me if I'm wrong, about like the mediums that they use for making a movie. Is that then there is like a bit more that Bergman is more auteur from the perspective of having like a bit more refined sensibility, and Fassbender was like fine with the ideas like this can be rash and rough around the edges as long as the point comes across. But both of them, I had the feeling that this is not about like the mediums and making it like 100% perfect, because this movie, at least to me, comes across as very low budgety.
Interesting. There are many things I would call this film, but not low budget. I can see that comparison, especially in like the amount of films or plays or anything they put out. I would argue that Bergman is 1,000 times more thoughtful than Fassbender, but I can see the comparison.
I mean, I'm not saying no. I mean, definitely when we actually talk about like the allegories and the symbolism in Fassbender movies, is that they are not subtle. He's not capable of any kind of subtlety. It's like he's going to be like spelling it for you, but he doesn't care. It's like he doesn't want you to have like a lot of understanding. It's like I was opening like the Wikipedia page right now about Our Other Wolf, and I was checking that it's like, oh, when they play the magic flute, that is like the opera that they are like playing on the castle with the puppet show. It's like, oh, actually there is a Bergman on that show. Sorry, that opera. That is like that it comes out of a jail and in a cage. And it's like, oh, the Lord, the guy that is like in a bear mask. It represents that same thing. And it's like, I think that the average person that is going to be like watching a movie like this is not going to be like getting those details at all or thinking about them.
I agree. This is not for casual viewing or for most viewers 100%.
Fassbender is going to be like a spelling for you, you know, in like the bitter tears of Maria Moncandi. It's like, this is me. This is me. Okay?
If you didn't get it, this is post-war Germany. This is post-war Germany.
Yeah, like the marriage of Maria Brown is also like, it's like, dude,
we get it.
It's like we usually like criticize movies when it's like, well, you know, they imply that you need to know like a lot about the country. It's like, no, you only need to know like 2 things about Germany and you understand everything.
There was sexism and there was a world war. Check.
Yep. And the country was like split in 2 parts. That's it. That's the only thing that you need to know.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you for watching the second Ingmar Bergman film. I really didn't expect you would like it, although I thought there was a small chance since you liked Winter's Light.
I think that Winter's Light is... I would even rewatch Winter's Light. Not right now. This is not an invitation. I'm just saying I would rewatch it This one like just left me with like, well, I watch it. It's influential, it's interesting in some ways, but it's like it's in a different league of how I understand cinema.
Fair enough. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I mean, for me, this is, like we said before, this is exactly my type of film. I think the filming is beautiful. I do think, without being superlative, this film has some of the most beautiful images Ingmar Bergman ever produced. And they're abstract and creepy, but they're the most striking, I think, maybe besides Persona.
Is Persona horror too?
It's definitely psychologically tense, and gets very uncomfortable, but I wouldn't call it horror.
Okay. All right, interesting. Maybe that's the one that we can watch in 5 years.
2028.
Here we go.
They see.
Do you want us to set up a calendar reminder for 5 years in the future? Now, this is like one of these movies that I feel like I wouldn't have been able to see through if it wasn't like because you like selling me on it, you know. And I don't regret it, like watching it, even if it was not my cup of tea. I didn't like finish watching and I ran to the kitchen to just talk with my boyfriend and talking. It's like, oh my god, this was amazing. It was more of a, well, I watched it.
Did you watch it with your boyfriend?
No, I watched it by myself. I think that he was watching something and I went like to the bedroom to just watch it. So no.
I need a second opinion. Someone that's not us. What do you think?
Did you watch it with your husband? You didn't, huh?
No, I mean, like I said, I made him watch it years ago. I'm sure he did not give me his honest opinion at the time, so...
You guys ended up getting married, so yeah. Should we go over the questions?
I don't see the purpose, so let's just give this a 10 and move on.
Move on. It's perfect. All right. So, would you watch it again?
Yes.
When?
Within the next month, I would. In fact, I was actually planning, I was like, now that I have A Christmas Tale for Christmas, I have Hour of the Wolf for Halloween. I need to watch this at Halloween.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to go with yes. Not right now. Maybe in 10 years, you know, like replacing like whichever Bergman movie would have counted at the time. But I just feel like, okay, knowing where it ends is like I am going to be more proclived to try to find like what is the meaning of each one of the denizens of the island. So cool. It has like some it has like some rewatchability. Let's just say. Would you recommend?
Also, to add on that, this is the only Ingmar Bergman film, and I've seen many of them, that felt somewhat like contemporaneous. Like it looked like the Countess is dressed for a party in the 60s, which was very shocking because I feel like even his films that take place in the modern day, they still have this old traditional sensibility. Anyway, please continue with the questions.
Oh, that's interesting. I had a feeling, well, yeah, Winter's Light was like way more calm.
And it was like rural people going to the local church to talk about their fear of atomic bombs. So
yeah. Would you recommend Hour of the Wolf?
100%.
Would you recommend it to anyone? You know, it's like
absolutely anyone. And before La Ventura.
Would you actually imagine that you're in a bar? I'm trying to just like come up with a specific bar. I don't want like a random one.
But I was sitting doing shots with Troy.
No. What is the Edward Norton Bushland?
The what?
Emperor Norton's.
Oh, Emperor Norton's Boozland.
Emperor Norton's Bushland. Imagine that you are there and someone just comes, because I have the feeling that it's like you can find like people from the neighborhood, you can find like hipsters that they go there, and someone approaches you And it's like, you start talking, and he tells you, I like cinema. Can you recommend me? And you say, like, oh, I love cinema too. He's like, and he asks you, oh, recommend me a movie.
John Wick 4.
I love that you, in the same conversation, you can actually end up in John Wick 4 or Hour of the Wolf.
Well, it was an interesting way you presented it, because yes, I would absolutely recommend this to anyone. Unless I was in Emperor Norton's Booze Land, because no one in that bar wants to see this. And that's not a judgment against them, but I've spoken with many people in that bar, and they're just not the sort of people I would recommend this to.
Okay, let's say the scenes.
Fine. No.
No. Let's go to Twin Peaks, for example, like Twin Peaks Tavern.
Yes, 100%.
And Twin Peaks Tavern, yes.
Yes. Toad Hall, no. Lone Star, 1 out of 10 times. 440, absolutely not. I guess it depends. Like, am I trying to have sex with somebody in this bar? Because then I would not say a word about this film.
Well, I think that is like, do you really want to come across as I like cinema and I want to make it accessible to you, or I like cinema and I want to look superior to you?
All joking aside, this is the sort of movie that cinema lovers, I mean, it's not yours, but it's the sort of movie that you cannot recommend to the uninitiated without seeming like a pretentious dick. Because
Correct.
I genuinely love this movie. I think it's great. To me, it's entertaining. I don't tell anyone I like this movie besides you and my husband. I've never mentioned it to anyone.
So would you recommend it?
If someone came to me in earnest and said, hey, challenge me, or introduce me to a film you think I should see that I probably haven't seen, yeah, I would absolutely recommend it.
All right, my answer is no. I cannot think. I mean, unless someone asks me, can you recommend me a horror movie? And I'm going to be like just giving like a list of 10 movies. And it's like, no. I want something like more pretentious.
You really think this is pretentious? You would call this film pretentious?
Dude, he doesn't play with the dead, but he actually sees like a puppet show with a human playing the magic flute in a house inhabited by the 7 capital. Jeez.
So it's only okay if Spike Jonze does that? That's the only reason we can watch a puppeteer? I'm sorry, but that scene was just as cool as John Cusack's. And the fact they used a real human to look, it's crazy.
I think that is like pretentious in here. Come on, dude. It's not about like a puppeteer. It's a bit more about like the situation. You know,
I didn't realize you could ruin being John Malkovich for me.
I haven't ruined it. I'm just saying that it's like being John Malkovich is like significantly more mainstream and absurd compared to Hour of the Wolf. Hour of the Wolf is like way more pretentious. It's that you cannot deny that there is like an allegoric sense that is like in being John Malkovich. It's like very down to the street level.
Yeah, I just don't think the existence of allegory means it's pretentious. I think it's higher brow, but I don't think it's like, this isn't somebody doing artsy things just to do artsy things. This guy was exploring like his relationship with his actors and his depression and his identity as an artist. I don't think that's pretension.
Give me just
I
one
can
second.
see why you would think the 7th seal is pretentious. Yes, that's pretentious.
Well, 1 second, but it's like both of them, they are allegorical. Both of them, they are like, you know, like higher level kind of highbrow and entertainment, you know. But it's like, I don't think that because one of them is about their personal experience and the other one is just because it's a topic that it sounds like intellectually superior, it makes this one non-pretentious. I think that both of them are pretentious.
I disagree. I think genuine self-expression is the opposite of pretension. I think if he tried to make his self-expression more complex and interesting than it actually was, that's pretension. I think this is authentic.
Okay, it can be authentic, but also at the same time, if for expressing your ideas, you have to actually have like 3 levels of indirection, and just making it accessible is actually pretentious.
I'm getting really worried that I don't actually know the definition of pretension. So
I actually just look it up. That's what I was doing.
So the attempting to impress by affecting greater importance, talent, culture than is actually possessed. See, I don't think there's anything there pretending to be greater than it actually is. It may be a mess, but he's not pretending to be anything but a mess, and he's trying to figure out how to relate to these things.
I don't know, dude. It's like when it's actually like impressing. Well, the greater culture is true that in the seventh seal, like the fucking
Mother is pretentious. That's Darren Aronofsky desperately trying to prove he has something inside him when he doesn't.
Aronofsky is pretentious by definition. It's like everything that he does is like pretentious. It's artsy pretentious. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. I think that, like all of this allegorical language that Bergman uses is like, for me, falls into that. For me, because it crosses a line. I can understand, like, for example, when we had Edwin like talking about enemy, and he felt it's like, this is pretentious. All of this allegorical stuff is like pretentious. I think that because it clicked with us, is that it doesn't feel that pretentious. For me, this didn't click with me. For me, it just felt like, look, you're adding like multiple layers of allegorism that is that you can interpret in 10 different ways for just like taking whatever you want.
This is a conversation that we should honestly continue after 3 drinks in person, because I think we mostly agree, and I think we're defining our terms just a little bit differently, but I can see what you say. I don't disagree with the idea, for sure.
Well, I also think that being pretentious is subjective. Like perceiving something as pretentious is slightly subjective.
I guarantee you the power of sound is pretentious, and it's not subjective. Objectively, okay. Power of sound is going to be pretentious. So I guess it's good news if your work falls into a gray area where some people feel it's not and some people feel it is.
Okay. But we agree that the 7th seal is pretentious.
I agree it can be perceived as pretentious.
Okay. Let's just leave it in ambiguous spot and let's just move on. I won't recommend.
I decide if I should rewatch the 7th seal so I can really figure out how I feel about it, or just continue on this joke that's been between us for so long.
Sure. Would you remember Hour of the Wolf?
Moments, but honestly, my answer is no. No.
You already saw I have forgotten like some details, like some important details in it at this point. So my answer is definitely no. I'm not going to remember like 99% of it.
And at the risk of using this word far too much, I do think allegory is way more difficult to remember. In fact, I took down a quote that I'd like to read to you really quickly.
Now we're being pretentious.
I am, because this is an Ingmar Bergman quote about how he starts to think about movies. He says he starts with something vague. It can be a few bars of music, a shaft of light across the street. These are split-second impressions that disappear as quickly as they come, yet leave behind a mood, like pleasant dreams. It is a mental state, not an actual story, but one abounding in fertile assumptions and images, which can sound pretentious, but I do think that pretty succinctly defines his approach to filmmaking, which I think is interesting because that does work for me. I want moods and feelings and memories, and that doesn't work for everyone. I totally get it.
Well, but the thing is that, for example, we talk in The Mood for Love, Wonka Why, is like we said that is like this is a mood. It's truly a mood. It's not so much about like the stories, about like the atmosphere that is creating.
Right. So imagine In the Mood for Love with meaning behind it instead of just a mood, and you've got Ingmar Bergman.
Dude, there is meaning on that movie.
You think there's a deeper meaning to that movie besides trying to get a sense of this longing and sense of loss?
I mean, I feel like actually being able to put that on the screen, it actually has like a meaning on itself. It's like in this, it's like I don't know what to tell you about like the meaning. Is that you just explain to me that it's a bit more about like the disintegrating and the fraud, sort of like the imposter syndrome, like for the artist. But I don't know. I mean, both of them, they sound like in the same. I don't feel like a deeper meaning. I don't feel like my life has changed, or I don't feel like he was trying to change anyone's life or have like a deeper meaning.
It's interesting. I don't know that I can further refine what I'm saying, so maybe I don't know what I'm saying.
No, you may be right, and I may not be like getting it. I think that we have been like talking for a while. Maybe we should just continue with the questions. Is there anything artistic about it?
Yes, I think it's gorgeous and deep and well acted and directed.
Everything is the full package. I would say that is like, yeah, I can see like artistic stuff. It's well shot. It's like the pace is good. It's like the scene with the kid, it was like really unsettling.
Deeply unsettling, like Hanukkah unsettling for me. I was like, oh god, I feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, there were like too many camera angles and camera changes, but otherwise it's like, yeah, this could have been like in a Hanukkah movie. I think that's a good comparison. Is it a timeless piece?
Yes.
I agree. Would you turn this into a TV show?
I wouldn't touch anything that has to do with this. No. I would leave it as is.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expand it, but yeah. Could this have been a short?
I don't think so. For a Bergman film, this actually has a pretty quick rhythm of the plot for a Bergman film, and I don't think he could have sped it up or cut anything out. And it's already like what, 84 minutes, so yeah. It's not like it's long.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that this, like the length is decent. It didn't feel like overly long. It didn't feel like, oh my god, this is not going anywhere. There is always like the next scene, there is like one more progress, and it feels like it's about like the slow burn of this person like going insane, like embracing like that insanity. And I think that you need like enough time for doing this. If you rush it, I don't think that it will have like the same impact. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
No.
I don't think that it could have been better. Honestly, I don't know.
Good as a turd can get.
I'm not calling it a turd, dude. I'm just saying that it's like what he's trying to do is like, regardless if it clicks or not, for me, is like I don't think that it could have changed anything. It's just that it didn't click for me. It's like, what I'm going to be doing is like just changing it into one of these like psycho thrillers from the late 90s, early 2000s with a twist at the end. Is that that wouldn't have been better. It wouldn't have been more interesting.
I agree.
Should we score it?
Absolutely, we should. This was my pick, so you go.
My score is going to be a 6.5. What?
I think this is one of our biggest splits ever.
Is it going to be a 10 for you or what?
No. This is a 9 for me.
Oh, okay. It's not a split.
I already said this, but I think this is an underrated gem of his, and I think as time moves forward, it will be recognized as a much more important film than it has been in the past. And I love it. I really love this film.
You mentioned that this movie was rediscovered thanks to be released in the Criterion Collection. Do you remember when was that? When was it released?
I don't know, and it wasn't like rediscovered. Like people, just to be clear, like I just think that it was like it's included in their latest collection of his films, and that is bringing it more attention. That's all I meant to say.
Oh, good. Okay. Cool. So, as this was your pick, I guess that I have to pick the next one. My pick is going to be for just completing the duology of All About My Mother. We're going to be watching All About Eve.
I can't wait. I haven't seen this film, and I thought I had, so I can't wait to talk about it.
Wow. Okay, yeah, because last time when I mentioned that it's like this may be a pick, you told me it's like, yeah, I hate that I like it because I didn't expect it.
I swear I had seen this, but I don't remember anything from this movie. So anyway, looking forward to talking about it.
Okay. And even if this was not a slam dunk for me, like out of the wall, I'm happy to have seen like one more Bergman film.
You're welcome.
Okay. And to everyone else out there, I don't know.
Wash your hands.